Hi everybody, I'm Butch Stearns.
And I'm Scott Liewehr.
And welcome to CMS-Connected, the web content management industry's only news commentary show. Scott, how you doing?
I'm pretty good today, Butch.
Yeah?
How are you?
We're here celebrating the 25th anniversary of the interweb.
I am really excited about that. I'm just waiting. Where are the balloons?
The balloons and party favors will be here. However, to focus on the subject of today's show, it is a good one that we're very familiar with here at the Pulse Network, and you are at Digital Clarity Group. It is video, the new document, up above my head here. See, I can press the video play button right there, and we can do that.
I see it.
Quick answer to this, video, the new document. What does that mean to you?
So content is changing constantly. Brands are always trying to figure out new ways to get people to engage with their content. Video as a form of media is obviously extremely engaging. However, it presents new challenges, right? You can't find it as easily. Think about searching for what's in a video. It's not words, it's not text. And so how do you harness the greatness about video, which is engaging and very informational and easy to consume, with the how do you make it findable, how do you make it reusable, how do you make it personalized, that sort of thing.
And today's subject is first and foremost at the foundation, the core of us here at the Pulse Network. So our special guest in studio for this show is going to be Nick Saber, the president of the Pulse Network. And we'll talk about how we work with our clients as a platform solution using video and content creation, content marketing, event marketing to focus around video to help solve their problems. Also, we're going to have Lisa Welchman from Welchman Pierpoint here in studio. She's a frequent contributor to this show.
She's a good friend of the show. This is Lisa's third time on the show, I think. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think doesn't Saturday Night Live have some sort of a club that you get in once you've done a certain number of shows? We should have a club, and Lisa right now is the first member.
Well, she deserves to be in the club. Just a little bit about her. She's passionate and has a great background about digital that really, she puts it in a great perspective, doesn't she?
The thing about Lisa and her focus is that she knows the technology, but she doesn't talk about the technology. She talks about how we use it, how we work differently as people, what we need to do, the new ways of working, given the digital is the new backdrop. And so I think, on the anniversary of the 25th anniversary of the web, it really is, yes, technology has come a long way, but let's focus on how we're differently. What are the new opportunities in terms of how to work now, and what are the new roles within organizations? How do organizations work more effectively and efficiently given the advances?
So, Scott Liewehr of Digital Clarity Group. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. Our subject, video, the new document. Lisa Welchman, Nick Saber going to be joining us in studio. Also, in our Spotlight segment, Joe Kepley will be in studio to review Easy Publish. Joe is a partner at Blend Interactive, and we'll be looking at Easy Publish CMS. But before we move on with this show, time now to recognize our title sponsors that help make CMS Connected all happen. First of all, Falcon Software. The people at Falcon Software can provide you with expert advice and integration solutions for all your creative web design, web content management, and e-commerce, social or mobile needs. Falcon Software is a lead sponsor of CMS Connected. And Digital Clarity Group, DCG, is a research and advisory firm focused on navigating organizations throughout the digital transformation process. And I would also like to recommend to all of you watching on your player right now, right down below us, you will see a link for social media marketing, a 5-step strategy to attract more social users and increase your ROI. It's a white paper free for you to download, so just download that. Are you ready to get into our news segment, Scott?
I've said it before, I was born ready.
You were born ready. All right, we do news, we do our interviews, and then we have our highly popular rapid fire segment. So let's start with the news. In our news segment, we start with OpenText partnering up, a tri-partnership, but the important part of this story is OpenText bringing governance to the combination of SharePoint and SAP. So first of all, Scott, talk about the three-headed monster, if you will, of OpenText, SharePoint, and SAP. And I mean that in a complimentary sense. This is a three-headed monster, isn't it?
No, yeah, and I think, like Ron Miller, who wrote this about this for Fierce Content Management, writes about the new release, essentially, which is called and this is a mouthful, you ready? SAP Content Management for Microsoft SharePoint by OpenText. That's the name of the new product.
Yep.
There's got to be an acronym in there somewhere. But yeah, I think you're right. So the issue here is that organizations have an awful lot of information. They have a lot of content, they have a lot of data, and a lot of systems that manage those, right? And so what this does is it's going to allow you to have SAP data and information and content shared through your SharePoint portal, as well as SharePoint native content shared through SAP. So basically you have this kind of bi-directional cross-pollination of information throughout your organizations, which is wonderful. However, that presents a gigantic governance challenge because people only are certainly allowed to see certain things, right? So I have a role in an organization, I'm privy to certain information. With this overlay of two major technologies that each has their own kind of access and control lists and that sort of stuff, it presents a challenge. And so what OpenText brings to this partnership is the ability to kind of govern all of that and ensure that your organization doesn't lose the security that it's got and the who can access what, while also marrying these two extremely powerful solutions and content.
So again, as a tri-partnership, if you will, you already did this, but let's go a little deeper on each partner and why you think what they bring to the table really matters under all of this. So start with SAP. 3, 2, 1. Start with SAP. SAP, the view of data, is what it's always been about.
Right. Sure, exactly. So whether it is CRM data and it's data about customers, whether it's ERP and it's data about your organization, there's all sorts of, it is primarily data that's in there and largely, structured content that's going to be sitting inside the SAP warehouse, right?
And then when you talk about SharePoint, of course, SharePoint from an IT perspective has always been about, oh, everybody can talk together and we can all get in together, and this is great. So they bring the value, the technology value of that, but they bring more than that, don't they?
So SharePoint, listen, the challenge with SharePoint has not been so much its capabilities or its functionality. They've moved along, and like any product that's come out, it's grown and evolved significantly. The challenge that's always been around SharePoint and the knock on it is that it is often viewed as kind of IT's value back to the business. They could go to a department manager and say, hey, you can create your own place to put your content in your documents. And as valuable as that was, unfortunately, it created more problems often than it solved, because now you have this real information governance issue, because now there's a single piece of content before you had in one place, now you've got it in all these SharePoint sites all over the place. And so it actually created a challenge for organizations. So I think, but it is where people go. So there's an awful lot of intranets on there. So people are accessing SharePoint to collaborate, work together on projects, share content back and forth, that sort of stuff. But not everybody necessarily had access to the data directly within SAP, right?
And then the important part from the OpenText perspective is the governance. But why? What do they do well that allows this governance to really work well with this partnership?
So now I would not say that replicating a SharePoint governance is also often going to get you very far, because again, the knock on it is that it's often not governed very well, right? But it does often at least parallel the organization in terms of its structure, where so-and-so reports to so-and-so and they sit in this part of the organization. Oftentimes SharePoint is a direct reflection of the organization itself. And so I have access to certain parts of SharePoint based on where I sit in the organization. So what OpenText is going to allow you to do is have that infrastructure and that kind of hierarchical assignment of governance, basically, and basically attribute that back to all this data and powerful coming from the database that is SAP.
All right, let's move on to our second story and our news item on CMS-Connected here in this episode. Video, the new document, and it has to do with Elastic Path teaming with Adobe. And before I read the particulars of this story, this all comes under one of the predictions we made in the prediction show for CMS-Connected for 2014, content and commerce merging together, correct?
And I stepped way out on a limb when I said that too. And that was a really risky prediction to say that content and commerce were going to continue to come together.
Coming up every morning.
That's right, that's right, that's right. So we did make that prediction here. We talked about that. We said, at the time, there had been at the end of 2013, there had been one or two acquisitions in the space, and we said that this is going to continue to happen. I think this is just another continuation of that evolution of these coming together.
So Elastic Path Software, digital commerce company, they formed this partnership. They've signed an agreement with Adobe. And what we're going to see these two companies collaborate on are several key areas: e-commerce platform technology, seamless product integration, sales initiatives, and marketing activities. In addition, Elastic Path is announcing the immediate availability of, here's another one of the long names, Elastic Path Edition for Adobe Experience Manager, the first modular, real-time e-commerce solution designed specifically to enhance the power of Experience Manager. Explain.
Only a marketer can come up with
we
these,
get an acronym
some of
in
these
there
product
somewhere?
names. We got to get an acronym in there. There's actually acronyms within the acronym,
That's
though.
true.
So yes, I mean, what's the idea of marrying these two? Well, we certainly know that this is becoming a more and more commerce-oriented world. When I say commerce, I'm saying e-commerce, but I think we can actually lose the E at this point now. So buying things on the web is obviously here to stay, right? And but the thing is that we buy based on our likes and our dislikes and our preferences, right? And so what AEM brings, the Adobe Experience Manager brings to the table, is the ability to be able to tailor content, to personalize what you see, so that the information that you're getting, the content that you're consuming, is essentially catered to you. Well, now couple that with commerce, and now suddenly the assumption is that you're going to increase, a consumer's desire to buy if you're showing them products and you're showing them content that's going to help them move them along that way. So bringing this idea of commerce, and I had this tendency to want to be able to buy something on the web, and this personalized catered experience because you know who I am and you understand what my likes and dislikes are, marrying those two together is only going to help it move that
Are we
along.
going to get the next Adobe Commerce?
I have no inside information. Let's just state that right up front. But I do think that, and I do know that Adobe has a very strong interest in the commerce space. I think this partnership is extremely interesting. I think they talk about their 7 Cs, and I think commerce would be their 8th C, and I wouldn't doubt that we see something like this down the horizon. That being said, Elastic Path made another announcement with another CMS vendor, Hippo, like within 2 days, so it can't be on both of their radars. But anyway, I do think that that could be something we see down the road.
Elastic Path getting busy.
Yeah, they are the new working girl of the commerce space. Sorry.
All right, news story number 3 here on this edition of CMS-Connected has to do with Pitney Bowes and big data. We go to a March 12th story from CMS Wire written by Virginia Bacchidis, which is an interesting article entitled Who Knew? Pitney Bowes sells big data products. In this article, Virginia states, if you're like me, when you hear the name Pitney Bowes, you think postage meter, not software, but perceptions are deceiving. Earlier this month, Pitney Bowes had announced it has added advanced big data management capabilities to its Spectrum technology platform. Scott, what's going on over at Pitney Bowes and specifically with Spectrum technology platform?
Yeah, so this is, I think, and we talked about this earlier, I think what Pitney Bowes has quickly realized is, quite obviously that what they were known for and where they grew up is obviously not as valuable in the new age. That's number one. But they've been reorienting themselves for a long time. They've made 80 acquisitions, 80 technology acquisitions
Let's say that again.
since 2000.
Pitney Bowes.
Pitney Bowes, the
has
one who does like the
acquired
stamps on your
80
mail.
technology companies.
Yeah, has acquired 80 technologies in the past, actually now 14 years.
Wow.
I think that was between 2000 and 2010, so it could be more since then. But so they've obviously for a long time been turning the ship and orienting themselves towards the new kind of digital space that we're in. And so I think this kind of area that they're in now, which is communications management essentially, right, is tapping into the information, insight, and data that they had access to before, the business that they were in. And now basically being able to, yes, it's again, we can beat up the big data term all we want to, but this is big data, and how do you put all of that information, get it at my fingertips, and then now allow me as a brand to be able to act on that in some way, and that's what they're trying to deliver.
So one of my perspectives on this story, Pitney Bowes and big data, is that they've always been about data. Pitney Bowes has always been about data. I mean, in unique data and volumes of data and comprehensive data, which has become more and more valuable, which is what big data is all about.
That's right.
So it seems to me that they have either woken up, slapped themselves in the face, or realized all along that we have all this data now, and now found new business value for that data for them and their customers.
Yeah, and I don't think that they've just woken up to this whatsoever, right? I mean, like I said, it's been, we're just talking
80
about
companies
we're
over
talking about the 25th anniversary of the web. For 15 of those, they've been reorienting themselves towards this, right? So I think they've seen it for a long time coming, and we're just getting around to it. They were starting this before the term big data was even created. They were starting to orient themselves this way. But I think now technology has come along so far that now how can we go tap into what we've been collecting all along, right? I think that's the key.
So again, the story is on CMS Wire. It is March 12th, Virginia Bacchidis. You can see that article. Pat, if you want to bring that up. It is written about who knew. It is Pitney Bowes and what's going on with them, announcing that they have added advanced big data management capabilities to its Spectrum technology platform. And as Scott has been saying, Pitney Bowes has been about big data forever. 80 technology companies they've acquired over the last decade or so. So they have always been in the big data business, and now are taking even more advantage of it because of what they're doing behind the scenes with all these acquisitions. And again, if you would like to read more about it, check out the article from Virginia Bacchatis on CMS Newswire. All right, as we mentioned, it has been 25 years since the World Wide Web began. So to put that in some type of perspective, we are bringing in a web expert. As a matter of fact, she's only 29 years old, so I don't know how she was around, Lisa Welchman, when the web began, but you were around when the web began. You were like 4 years old back then, weren't you?
Yeah, something like that.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Great to have you here. Now,
Thanks.
as Scott mentioned off the top of the show, I think this is your third or fourth time on CMS-Connected. I think you now hold the record for
Yeah.
CMS-Connected appearances.
It's good to hold a record for something, so I'm happy with that.
Well, it's good to have you here again. Like I said, I think the last time you were here, we were all wearing parachute pants. I was shopping at members only.
I'm
and
wearing
the web
parachute
had-
pants right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, that's a style that never goes out of style.
But Scott, a lot has happened business-wise for Lisa since the last time she's been on the show.
She
in all
has.
seriousness.
Let's ask Lisa about it. I'm pretty happy for her. You've had a lot going on. Since
Yeah, this year in January, Welchman PurePoint got acquired by Active Standards,
then. Yeah.
which is a UK-based company. I'm very excited about that, and we are really trying to find ways to help digital workers do their jobs a lot easier. So that's a combination of services and tools that they need. It's too hard. It's really too hard to get your job done right now if you're a digital worker. So we're going to solve that problem, and I'm excited.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that, being acquired by Active Standards, because I think a lot of people out there watching have been involved in a merger or an acquisition. And when that happens, what have you learned that maybe you didn't know when this all happened?
Learned about me, learned about
I don't
them,
know.
learned about everything.
Just when I ask you that question, what comes to mind?
I think what comes to mind is that I've learned that it's really great to work with a team, and it's really good to work with a team that has a diversity of skills. So I'm very service-oriented, very consulting-oriented, working with clients in a customized way, but there's only limits to what I can provide to them. So it's really great to work with a more diverse team. We can bring more to the table. So I'm enjoying that. I've had a small consultancy for a long time, and I'm really enjoying working with a bunch of smart people.
So let's get right to the topic that we want to talk about with you, Lisa, and that's around the 25th anniversary of the internet. But let's focus it on the jobs, the careers, what businesses have been doing over those last 25 years and how it's changed. And while that's so loaded, let's start the conversation talking about digital professionals, if you will. What is a digital professional today? What is your definition today that maybe it was in 1989, when Al Gore and Tim Berners-Lee started the internet, I guess?
That's really funny, but or not. But I think it's there's a big difference now. Right now, there's a diversity of what it can mean to be a digital professional. It can be anything from VP of digital, chief digital officer, or you can be sort of a webmaster type siloed. You can be a developer, a marketing person. And that's really different compared to what it was in 1994-95, which is when I started at Cisco Systems. And at that time, you really sort of had this webmaster type, and it was a person that had a lot of different skills. They were writing content, they were coding web pages, they were configuring the web server. And so that's changed and really exploded. And so what it means to be a digital professional is a lot of different things right now, and we're still trying to work that out, right, and figure that out. I think 25th anniversary is a good time to step back and think, what is that, and what's the career path for those sorts of people who want to work in digital?
I think that's really interesting. You've always brought that, as I said at the top, you've always brought that perspective. I wonder also, and certainly in your work, you work with individuals who are themselves professionals, but you also work with organizations at the kind of macro level. What about from the learnings, what has changed from their perspective? Because it's not just what can I now do with my skills, right? But it's also about how can I use all these people and their skills? Are they learning, have organizations yet learned how to put to use both the new advances in technology and the people that they have in their organization to be able to do whatever it is that they do?
If you want to,
how far along that are they?
I would say, if you want a simple answer, I would say for the most part, no.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to ingest all of that technology and the changing roles all at the same time, as well as change a culture,
Yeah.
right? particularly change a culture that's usually led by a group of people who formed their careers prior to the advent of the web inside the enterprise. So there's a lot of challenges and things to jump over. You see that less with people whose business models were really heavily disrupted, like people in publishing. It's sort of like, if you haven't figured that out yet, you're either out of business or something like that's happening.
Right now,
but for a lot of big B2Bs, it's a real challenge to figure out, how do you ingest digital? How do you repurpose workers? What do you do with those weird people down the digital silo that have all these convoluted jobs? And how do we pull this all together to actually add value to the business?
That's right.
So I think we're early on in that. Some are better than others, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
So as we continue to discuss how things were 25 years ago and how they are today, let me ask you about the term digital presence. What was it back then and what is it today?
Well, it used to be back then, digital presence was probably a website, right? Early on, a website or a bunch of different websites that you had, and the real focus was keeping the web up and running, a very strong production focus. My first job was putting up a bunch of web pages around products at Cisco Systems. So that was really an interesting job as well, but it was very tactical. Now, it's much, much different. A lot of people have to figure out, how are you actually going to create revenue using digital? And what you're talking about when you say digital is a broader range. So you might be talking about social channels, right? You may be talking about mobile applications, and you're probably talking about an array of websites, brand-oriented, market-specific, just kind of ecosystem of things happening online. And so the types of people that you need to manage that and the way to extract value out of it becomes much more sophisticated.
You used the term footprint when we were getting ready for the show and prepping for this and talking about it, and I love that term because, as you said, it was all about your website before, but a digital presence in this day and age, 25 years later, and who knows where it's going to go, is about well beyond your website. It's about mobile, social. It's a digital footprint, if you will. Talk more about that.
Well, I think, there was...
and comment on this. Wasn't it so much better then with flashing, blinking? Can't we just go back to that?
You want the blink tag?
I want
I want the blink tag and the waving flag.
Wasn't it better?
Animated GIFs that we used to have back then. That was real beauty.
It just really got my attention.
Yeah, it was something. But anyhow, you've completely,
Sorry.
I've almost forgotten what he asked me.
I derailed you, sorry.
Digital presence. I think what's really interesting, and part of this was what was happening with social is, sort of losing control of what's happening online, right? So the digital footprint is very broad, and it relates a lot to an organization's brand. So when someone's out in the digital world interacting, what do you look like? What do you feel like? It used to be really focused on, I've got a really good looking homepage, right? And that in the right colors and all of that, so that's really good. Now it's all of this other stuff, particularly as it relates to data and big data. Are you showing up in the right places in search engines? Where are you inside of that? And that's a lot harder to manage.
So let's finish with a couple of comments, maybe from both of you guys. To me, you said something interesting in there, that it used to be about control, about controlling the message you sent out there. We all know in this day and age, at least in my opinion, you don't control anything anymore. The consumers control, even if you're in a B2B business, they control how you're viewed and what you do. So comment on that from a business standpoint with where we are today. What does that mean for businesses today?
Oh, sure. I think it really now is, first and foremost, recognizing that fact. The statement that you just made, as easy as it is for us all three here to sit and nod, is very difficult for many to swallow. You talked about organizations being run by folks who were around before this. That's a really difficult thing to do. Number two is then, okay, now if I know that, and if I recognize that, what do I need to do? Well, number one, I need to listen. I need to understand what my audience is saying. And not just about me, but in general, right? I need to orient my products differently, orient how I market myself differently, orient how I interact with my customers differently. So there's that. And then it is, how do I now turn my ship in whichever direction I need to be able to respond now? So know that it's happening, listening to it, and then being able to act accordingly in some way, right?
Right. I mean, I think everyone likes to talk about the disruption of digital, but it's really significant, and I think people still short it. It's really profound what's happened, and so this sort of transformation that has to happen in the organization, even as it relates to things like org structures. Do we really need this top-down hierarchy of org structure in order to do business anymore? So I think we're going to see more and more next 10, 15, 20 years how things are going to shift so that we might even be managing our businesses completely differently.
That's right.
Because of the advent of digital.
Well, you might have answered this, but a final thought on that. This is now 25 years. What about the 50-year anniversary of the interweb? Predict what we're going to be talking about then.
That's right. Well, I'll only be 52. Or wait, no, that would make me 2 now. That doesn't even work.
Don't do the math. It won't.
This is what I think is going to be happening 50 years from now, which is we're not going to really be talking about digital anymore. It'll be normal, right? It'll be the way the phone is now. It used to be a brave new technology. Now it's just integrated inside the organization. 25 years from now, my son's 19. He'll be in his work prime. These kids are digital natives, right? They'll be running things. We'll be sitting back in our rocking chairs going, oh my God, what happened?
I couldn't agree with you more. My kids are 17 and younger, and they've grown up as digital natives. They don't know any different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll always be catching up.
Yeah.
They don't.
It's only hard to us because it seems new, but for them it's just the way it is.
Managing Chaos, Digital Governance by Design. You have a book that you work on. You've been talking about this for years,
Yeah.
Lisa.
I'm really excited about it. We're wrapping up on the manuscript issues right now, and I really want to offer, after maybe 15, 18 years of working with large organizations, how do you actually govern digital? How do you get this operational inside of your organization and jump over some of these hurdles so we can do the cool stuff that we want to do? So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be fantastic and hopefully a help to a lot of different people.
Congratulations on your acquisition. Thanks for being here once again.
Thank you so much. I'm
Always
going to
great
try and
catching
keep
up
this
with you.
record up.
All right, yeah, let's do that.
Thanks.
Lisa Welchman. All right, time for us to take a break now here on CMS-Connected. When we come back, Nick Saber, president of the Pulse Network, joins us in studio, talk about video, the new document. Stick around.
Telerik Sitefinity CMS is an online platform designed to align collaboration and deliver fast results for any requirement. It's a system that empowers businesses by streamlining content management centrally for any campaign, website, or channel. Telerik Sitefinity CMS brings your creative ideas and content to the mobile front easily with a powerful, responsive engine and multi-strategy mobile arsenal built right in. Using out-of-the-box features, you can reuse your content on any delivery channel, interact with your audience through social media, and even integrate directly with third-party systems. How does this all work? By understanding the nature of your content, Telerik Sitefinity CMS allows you to build once, deliver anywhere, using an advanced feature set and state-of-the-art drag-and-drop interface that's powerful by default and extensible by design. You can build gorgeous, blazing fast websites and get the results that over 10,000 of the most innovative companies are already enjoying. Go to Sitefinity.com now and try it for free. Telerik Sitefinity CMS, winning customer experiences.
Businesses today demand a powerful web content management and online marketing platform that can provide the best value at an affordable price with unlimited website possibilities. Kentico, the .NET Enterprise Marketing Solution and web content management platform of choice, powers more than 12,000 websites in over 84 countries, which means you get a stable, well-tested solution. Fully loaded with over 350 web parts and controls and more than 80 extensible modules. Kentico provides you with a fully integrated solution for building your online presence and running successful online marketing campaigns. It allows you to quickly launch an effective B2B or B2C site, intranet, online store, or branded online community, fully integrated with Facebook and Twitter. Test drive Kentico EMS today to get a complete appreciation of all its powerful features and capabilities.
That is the Pulse Network website at thepulsenetwork.com. We are a platform solution that works with our clients to help them solve business problems, help them tell their stories, humanize their brands so they get searched by more of the right people. How do we do that? Well, that's sort of our secret sauce, but the topic of today's CMS Connected is fundamental to what we do. Video, the new document. And to have this discussion at length now, we bring in the president of the Pulse Network, Nick Saber, to join myself, Butch Stearns, and Scott Liewehr of Digital Clarity Group. Nick, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Doing great. Didn't we just say this morning when we saw each other? All right.
Exactly.
Well, let's do it again. So video, the new document. As we talk about that, we can go in so many directions. Let's start with an industry question, Nick. Is it safe to say that video is becoming more prevalent in enterprise communications as part of the way business is done?
Absolutely, and I think for a couple of reasons. One, the cost of production has dramatically come down, not only the production of video, but also storage and how we can catalog and also the technologies that support it. But also, I think more importantly, there's no better way to humanize an enterprise brand than with video. You know, we've been using the written word now for years, but video really helps us put a face to the organization and really take maybe something that could be either an inanimate object or a service or a product that people really don't understand and really kind of create the human connection between that brand.
I think you said something I want you to go a little deeper on that I think people gloss over a lot of times. You said that video is being searched now in a whole different way. I think that's something fundamental that people need to really understand. Talk about what you mean by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, we talk about, and one of our partners, Mike Konings, always says that video is the new SEO. And it really has become, and content really is the new SEO, where video now can be tagged, all the technology that supports it between metadata and meta tagging, and how Google now can search video and all the other properties we can put on that video so that it enhances our messaging. It really is critical, and without that, we wouldn't get there. And you know, a lot of what we want to talk about today is how the new CMS platforms really allow you to use that as just another, you know, document element, you know, to enhance your messaging on your website.
Well, let's talk about that, Scott, how CMS platforms need to have video integrated. And when we do, I mean, I don't think anybody knows that you need to have video, need to be in that, or your clients are too. It's like mobile. There's not anybody now in this day and age that knows they don't have to be there. However, there are a lot of challenges that are presented, infrastructure challenges, when it comes to a CMS system, right?
Sure. I mean, so from an infrastructure standpoint, certainly it's going to, these are a heck of a lot larger files. I mean, generally all the files are getting larger, but now we're talking exponentially larger, right? You've got to be able to deliver that now, not just once. You can't just, you know, oh God, what's the word? When you can't just cache it, right? So it's not just, you can't just take big stuff and leave it up there. Now you got to be able to deliver that in real time, you know, so it assumes bandwidth, you know, between the consumer, and any disruption from, you know, oftentimes the companies are frankly blamed for all sorts of infrastructural challenge that are not necessarily even capable for the organization to manage themselves, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, my seeing your video and having it get chopped up and I can't watch it, is it your fault necessarily? I don't know, but I have a perception of your brand now that's based on that.
Absolutely, and people's attention spans are so short.
Yeah.
And there's so much content out there, and there's so many, you know, options for us to choose from. If it's not perfect and the delivery's not there, then we're just going to change the channel.
That's right.
And channel surfing, whether it be, you know, with a clicker or with your mouse, is just so easy.
It really is.
And mobile now is so important, right? We talk about mobile, but honestly, I mean, 90% of what we consume is either on a tablet or on an iPhone or on the plane, in the airport, on the train.
Right.
So that consumption and how we deliver it, to your point, is critical.
Yeah,
critical.
absolutely.
So the next question for both of you is what steps can somebody take to simplify integrating video assets with other CMS workloads? But I think we can look at it, if you don't mind, folks, through the eyes of the Pulse Network. We're doing this show in a studio, and when you get beyond the bells and whistles, and the bells and whistles are, we have green screen technology, we can put a virtual setup behind us, we can replicate this whole production environment at an event and do it live and stream it at different places. However, while there's a lot of challenges that go along with that, the steps that people need to think about to do it, I think we can give good examples. What we did at the NAB show, what we do in studio here. There are challenges, but they're not insurmountable challenges today.
No, you know, a lot just has to go with, you know, thinking through your messaging ahead of time and really pre-planning what you're trying to target and who you're trying to target and what messaging in terms of humanizing your message you want. So I think tagging your content and thinking about that ahead of time. What keywords are you trying to search for? Again, if you think of video as search, and because that's what it is for all of us at the end of the day, is how do we get people to actually find our message, consume our message, and want to, you know, interact with us. You need to think those things ahead of time. Just a little bit of planning goes a long, long way with that. And again, mapping out the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because, you know, this has been a challenge that we've had in the content management world forever, is that you've got folks who just want to be able to get the they're great at writing good content, and they just want to be able to get it up there, right?
Exactly.
But this really, any fallacies that you have, any challenges that you have with a suboptimal process around there are just really exposed in video, right? If I wasn't doing a good job before, you know, creating metadata around my content, describing it in ways that are going to help it be findable, categorizing it appropriately, those sorts of things, you know, that was still forgiven by the fact that Google could go find it maybe, and because I had a lot of words, and so full text search really helped, to supplement what I wasn't necessarily doing. In video now, that's not necessarily so easy, right?
Well, absolutely, and making sure you time code your metadata so that you understand where to find it in a piece, because as we talked about earlier, the file sizes are so large, and it's not like you're going to watch a 60-minute video to find a 30-second clip. So again, thinking that through ahead of time and making sure you plan that out is critical, but it's not a lot of work. And as we talk about, one of the things that's so important about video now, and why we think it's the new document, if you will, is it's so much easier to get a thought leader to interview for 5 or 10 minutes and get their thoughts, rather than saying, can you do me a huge favor and write me a blog post? That's a much bigger ask.
And not to take away from what you all do at the Pulse Network, because I'm obviously here at least once a month. I love what you guys do, but this is professional video, right?
Yeah.
And part of your point also is use video as a means of communicating, even if you don't always have the big budgets to go do professional.
Absolutely.
Like intersperse that in the same. You can do the kind of the blog version, the vlog version, the video. You can go and create good content that's interesting and short and captures points in a more engaging way by not necessarily making this gigantic production.
We certainly do that all the time. I mean, we look at that as a pyramid approach and making sure that you have that, expert, really well-produced content, but also you mix in user-generated content as well. I mean, your community can help produce some of that content and some of that vlog, if you will, that will help enhance your messaging. And
Or even an audience question. This comes from Dave Phillips at Uber Video. And his question is, quote, which you guys kind of jumped the shark on this already, but video files are hard to search without painstakingly meta tagging every clip. How does one deal? Let me go back to your point that you just said that this is professional video. I would agree. We work hard at the bells and whistles and making sure that the production quality is a professional production quality, and that might be a differentiator for us. However, I would go back to Nick's point about strategy. And when he's talking about metadata here, you can create quality video now on any device that you have. And quality is defined well beyond production quality. So to Dave's question about meta tagging, we come in and when we do a show, when we create content, video content with a client, we have a list of SEO optimized words, phrases that we want to use in the video because people are going to be searched by that. So quality is defined well beyond the production quality of video now. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, and I think that goes towards the pre-planning that we talk about. And again, it's not, when we talk about pre-planning and strategy, we're not saying, okay, great, we're going to add hours and hours to our day, but really thinking through what is the messaging we're trying to do to deliver, how do we want to be found? And again, as you talk about how do we catalog, you're not going to want to go back and watch a 60-minute or a 2-hour production or a bunch of files, and then try to figure out how to catalog it. It's doing it in real time. So again, going into the production with a set of a framework that you want to use and hand that to your thought leaders so that they can try to get those word tracks in there, but also cataloging that content in real time so that you don't have to go back afterwards and then figure out what was said where, time code that, catalog it, and then get that done.
And I'd imagine that's extremely important. I mean, one of the biggest things about content is that, that we're always telling people about is it is not just a way of getting information out there. It's also, how your consumers are consuming it is really telling for you, right? So, it's wonderful to do all this personalization and creating wonderful content and making more of it and all of that. But if you can't figure out, be able to go back and analyze that and be able to understand, well, wait a minute, everybody's only watching a minute of this 3-minute long video. What about that, what is that telling me about my content, about my audience, about their interest in whatever the topic is? And so being able to tap into the value of video, I think, is extremely important as well.
Absolutely. How do you catalog it? How do you segment it is huge. You even talk about this production and this show. This show is organized very, very well in terms of its segments so that it can be broken apart. It can be, consumed in bite-sized chunks so that people can really, if they want to watch the hour-long show, great. If they want to watch certain segments, they can. And that's easily found, on the web, and we can easily catalog that.
So let's talk about a barrier that many enterprise-level companies have sometimes when they're thinking about video. They think about video at the enterprise level in a sense that I don't have time to watch this video. I don't have time to watch an entire show. You sort of just answered this because it can be chopped up into shorter pieces of video. But Scott, you take a shot at this because I know Nick will be chomping at the bit to answer this many different ways. But what can be done to help users quickly find answers to specific questions when watching a video, in your opinion? How have you seen video be used that at the enterprise level you can create educational, informational video? Think of it beyond an advertisement or a promotion. How
I
do
feel
you
like this is a test because the two of you are the ones that know the answers to this, and you're going to put me on the spot.
That's why I'm
It's
hitting
all
you
right.
up with it.
No, so I mean, and these are some of the things that even I've learned through the course of working with you all in this, in this studio. Is we always talk about tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them, right? And so whether it's the content that you wrap around your video to introduce it in the first, it's the actual written content, then within the video itself, how you're breaking that down, using visuals to be able to show, here's what I'm going to be able to talk about, my 5 points of the day. Even at the top of this show, you get into who's going to be on in the show, what we're going to, right? That's going to be able to help your audience know it's not only good practice to keep people watching, but it's also informing them so they can so that collaboratively they can make an active decision. Do I want to participate in this, and what do I want to hang around for, and not what do I want to go to look for? I think that's really important, and then recapping for them and helping them get insights.
Absolutely, and I think, again, as we talk about, again, keeping people engaged and keeping their viewership, I think if you're doing a live production, one of the biggest ways is watch your chat. And if it's engaging, keep talking about what you're talking about. And if it falls off, it's like the old talk radio you used to talk about. If people stop calling and the phone stop ringing, time to change the topic and time to move on. But as we talk about really this in this context, I think it's really the power of the CMS, right? Can you catalog your content? Can you get access to it so that you can serve it up to your viewers? Scott talked about earlier Adobe really trying to customize the ability to deliver certain messages and customize content delivery to people. Can you customize your email marketing? Can you customize your website pages so that it delivers the right content to the right person and gets them and serves that up? And I think that's where the brilliance of some of these CMS platforms can really help you do that, which is why it's so important to use that in an enterprise situation and not just say, well, great, I'm going to use WordPress, or I'm going to just, think of it in a spreadsheet, because that works, for some smaller organizations where there's only a few files that we're dealing with. But when you're talking about an enterprise situation with many, many products and tons of video that's really created on a day in and day out basis, you need that platform to really help you deliver that to your audience.
You are watching CMS-Connected. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. Nick Saber, the president of the Pulse Network, is alongside co-host Scott Liewehr of CMS-Connected, the web content management industry's only news commentary show, is alongside, as always. The subject of today's show is video, the new document. All right, guys, let's finish up with some thoughts. We have another audience question. I'll get to that in a second. But let me make a statement and then get comments from you two. Calls to action when it comes to video. I think the first thing that comes to mind for marketers or salespeople might be an offer. So I'm going to offer you something. Well, to me, that's the old school mentality. You used to spend a lot of money with your agency if you were a company, and usually a B2C brand. You would put it out there, and the call to action would be come buy my products or come visit our event or do whatever. Call to action can be something completely different now, and I think it stems from the type of video you're creating. Again, if you're an enterprise level company, you're always looking for new leads or just to nurture your customers. But if it's lead generation, lead nurturing, your conversations might be educational, informational, inspirational. They don't an offer isn't the only call to action. Your comments on that?
No, absolutely. I mean, we talk about it in those lights, which is, lead nurturing, lead generation, or awareness building. What are you trying to accomplish? You're trying to accomplish all three. It's tough to do all three with one piece of content. But understand what your messaging is, your strategy is, and then deliver to that. Again, make it something I'm going to learn from. Your audience wants to learn from every piece of content. That we talk about quality content. It's not the camera. It's not the production. It's did I learn something? Was there a reason for me to watch it? And more importantly, did I learn enough that I want to share it with my friends and get other people to watch it? Because I'm going to be your best advocate. I'm going to help you get other people to see it.
It is what, it epitomizes content marketing. Content marketing is not just written content, right? The notion of content marketing is put yourself in a position as a brand to be informing your audience about what you know it is they're trying to do. How can you add to their ability to achieve whatever it is that they're trying to do based on you bringing your expertise to the table? I mean, frankly, this is exactly what it is that I'm doing here, right? So Digital Clarity Group is a brand. We do an awful lot of stuff. We work with a lot of buy-side and sell-side companies, but this for us is an outpost to be able to go and help people understand they can learn an awful lot by watching this show, right? And then hopefully when they're thinking about their next buying decision or whatever, then they'll think about us because they know that we are experts in this space. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. So there's, like you said, there's a specific purpose for every piece of content. And yes, you've got to create a lot of it and all of that, but I really think that ultimately add value to whatever it is your audience is trying to do.
And I have a comment on that too. Again, to the topic of the show, from a CMS perspective, when you look at it, you guys mentioned this before, the video plays on a player and it lives on a channel, whether it's Bright Cove or your own solution or whether it's YouTube or whatever. But there is a second and third screen experience, and there are social channels, and there are ways to comment. And when it comes to your CMS system, there's that whole customer experience term now, where you need multiple touch points to engage the consumer through the buying process and even beyond, so they become advocates. Yep. So when you think of it that way, it's well beyond just the video and the content that's in it, right?
Absolutely. We talk about it all the time. I mean, one of the most important stats that really grabs us and what's changed about digital and social is people are 70% through their buying decision process before a brand even gets involved or can influence their message. And so how do we affect that earlier? How do we get our messaging out there earlier? And for enterprise companies, it's even more and more important. So, don't breeze over that term customer experience, because all of what we're doing and all of what these platforms can help you do is really enhance your customer experience.
Yeah, I think really that video lives on forever, and the context in which it's going to be used will change significantly from one time to the next. People right now might be watching this to find out what's going on in kind of cutting edge news and what's happening in this industry. It might be 2 years from now when a buying company might be wanting to know, hey, what did so-and-so say about this company? Because they're thinking about that then. It's a completely different context and reason for watching a particular segment of the show, and so you just have to know that it's going to be able to be used anytime, anywhere, any context.
Final question from the audience. David Hobbs from davidhobbsconsulting.com asks, what are some of the types of standards that should be in place for video? Nick, I know you have an answer for this. It's the ABCs of standards that we talk about, but you take a quick shot at that. What are the standards? Come on. I want to see what you've learned. What are the standards you would be doing if you wanted to be searched for Digital Clarity Group?
Yeah. Someone
that can navigate you through the digital process. What standards would you put in place in your mind create to a video? You know this. I've preached this to you forever. Man. Know who you're talking. All right, let Nick go through it.
I mean, again, I think it's all of what we've talked about in the context of
the ABCs. Take notes of this.
I'm gonna. The entirety of this segment, really. Know your. The A is audience. Know your audience. Know what your. Who your audience is, how they consume their content, and really what they're interested in. The B's is the business outcome. What are we trying to? What is our call to action? Where are we trying to influence them? Are we trying to get them to our community? Are we trying to get them to a product page? Are we trying to just get them to know who we are as a company and what that's all about? And the C is really the content. What's the focus of the content? As we always talk about at The Pulse, when we talk about quality content, make sure I learn something from everything that we're doing. Make sure that every time you ask, right? Think of it as an ask. You're asking your audience to give some of their time, which none of us have. So if you're asking me to give my time, I want to learn something. And if I do learn something, then I'm going to share it with my friends, and I'm going to make it more engaging for other people.
The ABCs.
The ABCs.
Audience,
business, and content.
There you go.
See?
Boom.
I can listen. I can learn.
Great hanging with you once
Thank
again.
My wife might disagree.
All right, Nick Saber, the president of the Pulse Network. I want to take this opportunity right now, as Nick is on the way out, to talk about the NAB show coming up. As the live airing of this show, we are here in March. We are partnering up with OpenText. This is a digital magazine, an outpost that we've created, if you will, called Digital Media Workstream. I encourage you to go check it out at digitalmediaworkstream.com. You are all in the digital media business, whether you admit it or know it or not. Your brand is, whether you're in the B2B world or B2C world. And when it comes to a work stream, you need to think about that you have a work stream, and the more efficient and effective you are with that, the more you can create business, nurture your current clients, and create new ones. And at the NAB show with OpenText, we are going to be streaming live. There you go. Join us for 3 straight days, Monday, April 7th, 8th, and 9th. We'll be live in the OpenText booth at the NAB show with lots of interviews, 3 hours of live programming all day long from the floor of the NAB show with OpenText. And Scott, well, at the top of the show, we talked about OpenText partnering up with SAP and their solution along with SharePoint, and we'll be talking about that and their solutions around digital asset management at the show. So we're excited about that, and we're also excited about our Spotlight segment, as we always are. So in today's Spotlight segment, we are going to talk specifically about Easy Systems CMS solutions. Easy Systems has been providing web content management solutions since 1999, so several decades now, almost 25 years they've been doing that. With a global presence in Europe, Asia, and the US, their platform drives more than 250,000 sites in over 170 countries. They're currently on version 5.2, Easy Publish is, and joining us in studio right now is Joe Kepley. Joe is a partner with Blend Interactive. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Good to be here.
Good to have you here. So let's talk about Easy Publish, and let's start with some of the obvious questions. What can you tell us about their new version 5.2?
Well, the new version, so the big focus of the 5 series has really been on really converting the framework underneath the system. And that's a really rare thing for a CMS. So a lot of enterprise-grade CMS systems have been around a long time, and sort of over the years they've built up a lot of framework around them, and they've written a lot of their own stuff. And what Easy has done that's really pretty unique, I think, in the CMS space is they've said, you know, we're going to make it so that we're working with a standardized framework, which is the Symphony framework. It's a very popular PHP application framework, and really focus on being able to integrate with other systems, being able to bring developers that maybe aren't familiar with the CMS software into the development process, which is great.
What's unique about Easy Publish 5.2, or what are some of the features you want to focus on?
Well, the real focus and the unique feature of Easy Publish that I haven't seen in really any other system, and I'm sure they're out there, but is that the HTML content that editors are entering is actually stored as XML in the system. And that sounds like a small thing, but it really opens up a lot of flexibility, because when I'm redesigning the site later, or if I'm repurposing the content for multi-channel delivery, I'm making a mobile site, I'm putting out PDFs, I'm sending data to an app, I can template and change that content that's already been written without having somebody to go in and rewrite it, which is a huge deal.
So it's not a little thing.
No, it's not a little thing.
Especially when you start to look at your CMS system and look at your strategy and how, because you're going to have other people within the system that aren't digital natives that aren't going to know how to do this, and it's going to make it easy for them.
Yeah, and so you can really have true control of content over presentation, keep them separate, so that I can say, well, I don't want users to use the font tag or the color tag.
So I mentioned they have a global presence, Easy Publish, in Easy Systems in Europe, Asia, and the US. Their platform drives more than 250,000 sites in over 170 countries. The direct question we always ask at this point in the Spotlight is what's missing from it. They're primarily in Europe, not predominantly in the US, right?
Yeah, Easy's definitely, I would say they're definitely an engineering strong company. They're engineering led. They're not much of a marketing company. And so when you see them in the US, it's usually because some developer over here, somebody involved in CMS selection has said, we want a really well-engineered solution for the long term. They did their research and they sort of found this on their own. They're making moves to market more in the US, but I mean, really when you're buying a CMS product, you only deal with the marketing before you sign the contract, right?
Right. So they're based more in the technology of it, and that's their strength.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, really core content management concepts.
Yeah, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You just need to know that that's their foundation.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. Top competitors for Easy Publish.
I think what you see most these days in the enterprise space is Sitecore, Episerver, Hippo. Most of them tend to be Windows solutions in the US, so Easy's a little bit different in that it is on a LAMP stack. You usually think of lower market solutions with that, but it really competes with those solutions at that level, and that can help in a cloud deployment, especially when you're putting up Linux servers instead of Windows servers.
So Easy Publish, again, going back to your point about them, their foundation being in the technology or the execution part of it at the end, the types of companies that you give them a closer look, media companies, that type of stuff?
Yeah, they've had a strong focus on media for a lot of years. That really was, again, sort of an engineering choice, that media has some of the hardest demands on enterprise content management, and so that's where they put a lot of focus. So over time, you've seen a lot of tools build up, really good management of process, they'll be able to repurpose content. I think generally it's good in any case where you have somebody that's got a large content repository, so a lot of content that needs to be organized, and you need to be able to manage that and grow the solution over the long term. And now with 5 and this migration to Symphony, it's also a great fit if you are doing a lot of integration or bringing other parts of an app in, or maybe you're even managing content that's in another application.
Now, you're a partner at Blend Interactive. You're the director of development too, and Head nerd. Okay, well, you use Easy Publish.
Yes.
Talk about your company a little bit and talk about why you do use it.
Yeah. So Blend started about 9 years ago, and we started because we really love content strategy, design, content management. The things that we really like to do are find these, really complex or interesting content management problems and make very elegant solutions for them. Easy allows that, so it allows us to really be flexible and develop a lot of interesting solutions. It's not the only tool we work with, but we tend to only focus on tools that really are going to give the best solution to our customers.
What's in the future for Easy Publish?
Well, they are working right now on 2 fronts. So the migration to Symphony is continuing, and they're really focusing that on how can we get more developers involved, how can we make the tool easier to use for developers, and they're focusing that on the open source side under their new moniker of Easy Platform. On the business enterprise side, they're really looking at how do we give a better turnkey solution out of the box, or more turnkey, because there's no such thing as turnkey in the enterprise CMS space, but how do we speed up development of developing enterprise WCM solutions?
Joe Kepley from Blend Interactive. Joe, we want to thank you for your review of Easy Publish. On your way out, though, I want to give you a chance to talk about your conference you've got coming up in April, the Now What Conference.
Yeah, so it really grows out of our love of CMS, and we see a lot of clients that we build these fancy solutions for, and then they say, great, you've built this up for me, now what do I do with it? And so it's a conference focusing on really content strategy and on analytics, and really how can you get the most value out of your website after you've built it. We've got Karen McGrain coming, Christina Halverson, a lot of great speakers, and that'll be at the end of April, and you can find out more online.
Great. Good luck with that, Joe. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Joe Kepley from Blend Interactive. Again, the conference is nowwhatconference.com. That's the website. That if you want to check it out, conference that gives you the know-how to manage your website post-launch. Folks at Blend Interactive putting this on. Definitely an event that you might want to check out. All right, so that was our spotlight segment. So Easy Publish, Scott, your product snapshot, if you will, about it.
Yeah, so I think Joe touched on a lot of the points. Is that they are a LAMP stack, which to define it, if you weren't aware, this basically means it's written in PHP and it's on the open source platform, Linux and Apache, et cetera. So it's kind of unique in that way, in that they actually have very similar to Episerver, Sitecore that he compared them to. They have this. What many of the open source products in the market don't necessarily have, which is the kind of suite approach where they are bringing all pieces. Oftentimes, we see the commercial open source vendors like the Hippos and the Magnolias and even others like that come to the table with defining a very specific problem, and then they use their ecosystem, their community, to go and develop apps to add on to that. In this case, Easy has decided basically that we want to go and help to build out all of those pieces. So much like a very similar to a Sitecore mentality, they wanted, still yes, using the community, yes, it's still open source software, but primarily they devised a roadmap, they set it up, and they decided here's what we're going to go build out, and we have this vision for what we see the suite looking at. So it is very much an alternative to a Sitecore Episerver, kind of a suite approach for the mid-market. Like he said, though, marketing is not necessarily their strong point. They had a CEO shift not very long ago, and they are trying extensively to kind of push into the US, as many are, but they look to partners like Joe's company and that sort of stuff to help bring them in. But I think it's a challenge for them right now is they don't have the marketing dollars that does a Sitecore, that sort of thing, to have to be up there and always be considered first thought. And I think they're fairly unknown. When I'm thinking about, if I'm a business buyer and I'm thinking about who do I want to go build in, there's some obvious ones to go to, and Easy Publish doesn't necessarily come to the top of that list, even though it is quite a capable solution.
All right, time now after our Spotlight segment for our Rapid Fire segment. This is where we put Scott on the clock. I will read the headline of each of these items. I will give you a little bit more on it, and then Scott will make sense of it for us in Rapid Fire, having only 60 seconds to do so. So to start Rapid Fire, we begin with this headline. Thumbs down on brands. A little bit more about this. Brands have always thought about using social and continue to do so. However, a recent study by Kentico says that they still need to re-examine how they are using social. Kentico, some of the challenges faced by brands on Facebook and other social networks. In a survey they did of more than 300 adults age 18 and older, found that a majority of them usually ignore posts by brands. Does that mean brands should not be on Facebook, should not be on Twitter? Of course not. What it does mean, Kentico found that 68% of respondents never or hardly ever pay attention to brands' posts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, yet only 5% of those same people unliked or unfollowed brands on their social networks. What do you make of this, Scott?
You know, I think here's the thing. People, brands, everyone need to use their brains when they approach this stuff. I think we kind of get really caught up in, oh, the power of Facebook, that's the new place where I need to go and be, and all of a sudden it's going to do this for my business. No, Facebook is a social platform for people to interact with actual friends, whether they be virtual or whatever, but I know most of the people that I'm connected to there. I don't know you as a brand, and I'm not there to engage with you. I don't want to have a conversation with you as a brand. However, if you want to throw me a coupon because you understand what I like and dislike based on my behaviors and topics of content on Facebook, then sure, I'm happy to take your coupon. So I think Twitter is a very different means. I actually may want to complain about a brand there. I might want to say something positive about a brand. That's a whole different thing. But on Facebook, where I'm interacting with friends, I don't want to interact with a company, but I will take a coupon or two. And so that it's more than that or that it's only that shouldn't be a surprise really to anyone.
Headline number 2 here on CMS Connected in our Rapid Fire segment. HANA in the cloud. SAP HANA in the cloud. Does this bring oomph to the cloud? SAP wants to be the future of computing, and it wants it all. SAP wants to own big data, analytics, cloud, mobile, business applications, and other technologies in the enterprise as always, but beyond that also. And SAP couldn't have been prouder when they announced that SAP HANA, the company's real-time data platform, that has taken the world by storm, would now be available in the cloud. Scott, does this give the cloud more oomph?
It does give the cloud more oomph. And again, as we said when we talked last month, I believe, about Oracle making acquisitions in the cloud, that should be no surprise to anyone, because if you were not moving to the cloud, then that would be the surprise. So that SAP is pushing into the cloud is no surprise, but I think this actually means an awful lot. This is fairly significant because, yes, we know that HANA is, a huge database product that's able to hold millions. As a matter of fact, they've broken the Guinness World Record by 4 times with a 12.1 petabyte data warehouse in the cloud. That's huge. What they do by moving to the cloud is they now allow app services, database services, and infrastructure services to be available in the cloud. And what that means now is the notion of big data we've always talked about. It's how can you tap in and make use of that data? So marrying IQ with HANA, being able to get at all that data and analyze it in a way that it's going to become actionable to be is huge. And now that I put it in the cloud and I can pay based on consumption as opposed to buying that gigantic infrastructure, and 2, that I can, and I'm over my minute, but and 2, that I can now make that available to smaller businesses and allow them to tap into that, I think is pretty monumental.
You got to steal 10 seconds from our next story now.
Yeah.
Our next story, we go to Digital Clarity Group and Tim Walters and research that he's released, and its title is Blindness and Insight, and the subtitle, if you will, is Ignore the CEM imperative at your peril. As we all know, businesses must pay attention to customer experience. If you bring up this paper, we'll talk more about it. In the paper, Tim goes on to say customer experience in the age of the empowered consumer establishes that customer experience management is no longer an option. It's no longer a nice to have or a remote step in a 5-year strategic plan. No, on the contrary, the mobile and social empowerment of consumers makes customer experience management an inescapable, compulsory, and essential initiative, like only Tim can say, for virtually every company's survival. By the way, the paper is now available for free download on the DCG site, the Digital Clarity Group website. Scott, more about this?
Yeah, this is a real theme for Digital Clarity Group, is all about customer experience management. And our view on it is a little bit different than the typical. So what Tim talks about here is he cites an Accenture report actually that talked about, I think it was a survey of 33,000 consumers, and basically understood that some very large percent, don't ask me for the quotes, but read the blog, a large percentage of them, over 70%, say that they have switched in the past. They've switched companies and switched vendors based on a poor experience, and even more so say that they would go and pay more for that, in fact. And so now organizations are starting to understand that there really is an imperative about managing the customer experience. It can be managed, and it is not merely managing the digital experience. It is rather, as we talked about with Lisa, an organizational embracing of this notion of disruption, and it is an organization understanding that it is no longer in charge, and that in fact it needs to orient its business, leverage digital, and be able to deliver a product that is desired, product or service desired, and essentially the roadmap is your consumer's roadmap. And so how you reorient your business and take advantage of that is an imperative that you must deal with.
Final two stories here on Rapid Fire on this edition of CMS Connected. For the next to last story, we go Sitecore goes mobile. Big announcement by Sitecore at South by Southwest last week. The first of their mobile apps designed for tablet viewing and features mobile executive dashboard developed to give marketing pros fast insight into how their various programs are doing, provide quick insight into a customer record. Scott, what do you make about this announcement by Sitecore and about their mobile apps?
Yeah, I think there's two pieces about this announcement that they launched. One is an executive dashboard for marketers, and the second one is a media uploader. I think both really relevant that they're now available on tablet devices, not necessarily all mobile, and specifically, by the way, Windows and iOS platforms. But you know, what they said about the executive dashboard is essentially all that we've just talked about earlier today on the show. It's been the theme, essentially, that as we're creating marketing, as we're creating content, we need to really be able to understand what of it is being consumed and is seemingly moving the ball forward with our consumers. So being able to have a dashboard to help you understand how your content is being consumed so that you can reorient yourself if necessary and change directions is extremely important. There's a comment in the article that Ron writes that basically says it's because marketers are on the go. I actually completely disagree with that. I think it's relevant on the tablet because marketers use tablets now. It's not just because they use them from the plane. Tablets are a new paradigm, and so is mobile. But the second part is, I think, really relevant. It goes back again to the video theme, is that a media uploader available is extremely important, that from your mobile device now, I can get content into Sitecore that I've captured on video wherever I was, and that's going to allow me to be able to be extremely time sensitive and reactive. And I no longer even care about the 1-minute counter at this point, but just so you know.
Final story, we'll see if Scott can stick to a minute on this, but maybe he shouldn't because the insights are valuable. Headline, SharePoint shakeup. You know, Microsoft has built, a big part of their success has been built on the strategic partnerships they've formed and use going forward. Oh, there was one more, sorry. Let's start that one again. Our next to final story, SharePoint shakeup. As I mentioned, Microsoft's partnerships have been huge forever, but are they testing those with the latest shakeups of SharePoint? Here's what I mean by that. They've always enjoyed a mutually beneficial relationship between developer partners and Microsoft SharePoint for some time, allowing nearly ubiquitous software to jive with legacy systems and business-specific tools. But at their SharePoint conference in Las Vegas, compliance and video updates unveiled could unnerve some of the partners on which Microsoft relies. Scott, what do you make of this SharePoint shakeup, if you will?
I think, again, this is nothing new. Whenever I'm talking to organizations, vendors, brands, companies, whether they be services company or product companies, and they tell us that essentially their primary roadmap has to do with supporting some part of the SharePoint ecosystem, I get worried for them because Microsoft will do what Microsoft needs to do. Yes, SharePoint is a gigantic ecosystem and people can live and die on that. But with every up, there's a down. And unfortunately, when Microsoft decides then to take back a piece of that pie that you have built your organization around, you're going to need to adjust. We talked about a year ago now when they acquired Yammer and what that did to the likes of NewsGator and sort of things. And by the way, I don't mean to say that it completely disrupted them, but you've got to change directions. We see this happen an awful lot. And so, Microsoft is going to look out for themselves first. So they brought in the compliance manager and a media manager, and basically they're now going to offer that themselves. And, again, they're out for themselves right now.
And we end with a juicy rumor, if you will, an acquisition rumor. Jive buyout talk. Shares of Jive Software jumped during the past week on renewed reports that the social business provider is seeking a buyer. Talk of a takeover has risen repeatedly since last May when Bloomberg News first reported that SAP passed on the deal. The latest report came on Tuesday when Recode writer Eric Hesseldahl reported the company has been seeking a sale over the past several months with the help of the investment bank Catalyst Partners, which is led by Frank Quattroni. Company officials were mum saying, quote, "We don't comment on rumors," said investor relations spokesman Brian Denyo. Scott, you love talking about these juicy acquisition and buyout rumors, don't you?
Well, I don't want to go add to, if they won't comment on it, then we can talk about it, but certainly nothing is confirmed. It's not going to talk, I didn't say that. I didn't say it would stop us from talking about it. I'm just saying nothing is confirmed. But listen, I think, Jive is obviously in the collaboration business. Others have jumped in it. We've seen Acquia jump into that business and want to go head to head directly with them on that. And so it's a good place to be. That they're looking for an exit or that their investors are looking for an exit is no surprise whatsoever. It's a $173 million in revenue company that I think would be well sought by a number, and I think add to an awful lot of platforms. Whether or not SAP was in the mix, and I don't want to confirm or deny, and frankly don't know. But the point I think is that ultimately, how you tap into and use information throughout the enterprise is going to be really important. And something like a Jive or an Acquia or whatever is going to be, or a Yammer or any of that is going to be critical. And I think it might be whether it's on the Jive label or some other label, the critical thing is how do you put that information to use? And so this is a relevant space to watch because of that reason. And by the way, Jive isn't always associated with customer experience, and neither is SharePoint, but I think it critically is because it puts employees in touch with each other who are actually the ones delivering the experience, not just marketing the experience, right? Customer experience does not end with a sale unless you're talking about, as my colleague Chris Walker says, unless you're talking about cemetery plots, right? So that's about all I have to say about that.
Great stuff. Good show, Scott.
Thanks, man. You too. It was an active one. There was a lot of people on this chair today.
Good hanging with you. And speaking of that, let's take a moment to thank our guests, to thank our sponsors, and tease the next show. As far as our guests, our thanks to Lisa Welchman from Welchman Pierpoint coming in studio. Also, our thanks to Joe Kepley from Blend Interactive, and our thanks to Nick Saber, the president of the Pulse Network. And before we go, of course, we want to thank our lead sponsors of CMS-Connected. They are the same, too, for every show. Falcon Software and Digital Clarity Group. Check them both out for your digital needs and what can help you with your CMS systems and navigating your way through the digital transformation. And the next show, we talked about video, the new document in this show. Well, the next show, we're going to talk about the mobile moment, and that's going to come your way Wednesday, April 23rd. For co-host Scott Liewehr of Digital Clarity Group, I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network, and we will see you next time, Wednesday, April 23rd, here on CMS Connected. So get connected and stay connected with CMS Connected.